We're hoping this again is $25 gift card up for grabs right now. 10 questions, true or false. You see it on your screen. Give me a good creative name. Just make sure that before you leave, if you win, you let me know who you are. But go ahead, register for that right now. And I'm going to introduce Bob Dudley. He is going to take over after this contest, and Bob did provide these really cool autoclave IQ test questions that you get to test yourself on. I want you to welcome Bob. Bob, don't worry about your camera. You'll pop it up, I'm sure, when we get started. He is the founder and president of Safe-Decon. Bob leads efforts to not only revolutionize decontamination and sterilization for laboratories, hospitals, and biohazard waste management. Over the past decade, he has really, truly created and driven innovation in the Safe-Decon product and process to improve efficiency and effectiveness in decontamination. I could read Bob. Bob's done a lot of really cool stuff, really innovative stuff. But what I love about Bob and his mission is he is extraordinarily passionate. For those of you who've seen me in my lunch break series, you know that I am. And I tell you, Bob has been directly touched by this. He's going to share his story with you. But also, one of the things that really stood out to me when I talked to Bob was many years ago when I was serving an institution that will remain nameless. There was an individual there that was doing a lot of great autoclave work and was coming up with some things that I could never highlight. It just was, I didn't do the lunch break series back then. And when I got to talking to Bob, Bob started saying the same things. And I was like, hey, Bob, you want to do a lunch break series? And Bob was like, yeah. So you are in for one heck of a great presentation. Bob's going to present, and he's going to show you some of the technical aspects of the last line of defense, the autoclave in biocontainment. He's extremely passionate, very technically sound, and I look forward to hearing his presentation. But before we do that, we're going to go in for the $25 gift card. Ladies and gentlemen, again, do not run away unless I know your name. I love the creative names, and we're going to go ahead and get started. This is pretty cool. We have over 100 online today, and we have several people that are registered and in. I'm going to go ahead and start. I still have lots of people who are coming in, it looks like, but I'm going to go ahead and start the contest because we've got to transfer this over to Bob soon. So here we go. The autoclave IQ test. Remember, speed does matter, all right? It is a quiz. Steam is the primary method autoclave uses for sterilization. What do you think, true or false? True or false? Wow, we got a lot of people jamming on this. Here we go. Speed does matter, not only accuracy, but so does speed. The answer is, believe it or not, true. And like I said, Bob is going to be talking about this. And then afterwards, we're also going to facilitate questions as well. A lot of people probably thought heat was the issue, but we'll see here. Let's see. Sensi Newbie is a number one right now. Here we go. Question number 2. If steam doesn't reach the center of the load, you still achieve sterilization. Ooh, what do you think? True or false? If steam doesn't reach the center of the load, you still achieve sterilization. What do you think? Got 52 answers, 55 answers in, and the answer is false. That is correct. 51 people. Well done. See any change? Oh, look at this. Sean is awesome. I'm going to see who that one is. Boy, I'm paying somebody some big bucks. All right, here we go. Next question, 3 out of 10. Chemical indicator strips are as reliable as biological indicators for sterilization. What do you think? True or false? This one was an interesting one. I can't wait to hear Bob. He's going to, like I said, he's going to talk a little bit about this. We've got 60 answers in now. The answer is false. The answer is false. Here we go. Any change? Oh, look at this. All right, here we go, Sean. I'm not going to keep saying that. It's pretty good. Stacy is in second. Here we go. Gravity cycles are as effective as pre-vac cycles when run for the same amount of time. What do you think? True or false? True or false? True or false? Here we go. You got 56, 57 answers in. The answer is false. Ooh, we may have a leadership change here. We did. Brandon jumps ahead. Brandon's ahead of Charlotte just barely. Here we go. Next question. Adding water inside autoclave bag increases chances of sterilization. I'll give you a hint on this one. This one got me. Bob got me on this one. Is this true or false? True or false? The answer is false. Yes, see, Bob, you got me on this one. It looks like You got a lot of the other folks people too. Here we go. Does a name change? Oh, it does. Mad Scientist jumps in to the lead here. Here we go. 6 out of 10. Improper loading of an autoclave can cause a sterilization failure. What do you think? True or false? Improper loading of an autoclave can cause a sterilization failure. That answer is true. Very good. 54 got that correct. Well done. And we got Nicole is in the lead now. All right, here we go. It looks like California is on fire. CA is on fire. Here we go. The next question, 121 degrees Celsius, 250 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 minutes exposure, sterilizes pathogens and spores. Bob got me on this one too. Bob got me on this one too. And the answer is, I can't wait to hear Bob on this one because I always thought, well, that kind of depends, but 27 people got it right. And Bob, I know, is going to clarify that. I know. Here we go. Stacy's on fire. She's coming up. Nicole is still in the lead. Here we go. Next question, 8 out of 10. Density of the load and packing of bags tightly increases the risk of incomplete sterilization. What do you think? True or false? True or false? This is a very, very good one. That's one of those, again, where we talk about it depends. It may be. The answer is true. 50 got it correct. Well done. And we have a title change. Oh, CA's in the lead now. Here we go. Final, I think, nope, this is question 9. It is safe to assume that an autoclave cycle was successful because the autoclave completed without an error. What do you think? I think the word assume probably gives you a hint on this. All right. And that answer, again, is false, false. And last but not least, and no name change. Here we go. Listen, last but not least, here it is. Last question. When used correctly, autoclaves can reduce laboratory-associated infections. What do you think? What do you think? True or false? I'm hoping that one's very common. All right. And the answer is true. Very good. Well done. 58 people got it correct. And let's see who is the winner of the $25 gift card. Who's it going to be? Stacy's in third. Well done. DNA is in second. And number 1 is CA. All right. So CA, please make sure, make sure that you let me know who you are before we go today, or you can actually email me as well. Emailing is just fine. We're happy to do that. Congratulations to those top 3. Well done on that. I do appreciate you attending. And so what we're going to do now, as soon as I can get back here, there we go. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. And I am now going to share Bob's slides. And Bob's camera has come up, which is great. And Bob, your mic, go ahead and hit your mic for me.
Yep, I should be good.
Yep,
can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Perfect.
Bob, before I go away in my camera, I just want to say thank you for a variety of things. Thank you for not only doing this for everybody online today. Got 137 people today showing. We had 260 people registered, Bob, so it's a huge topic. But I also want to say thank you for all you do, your passion, your commitment, your mission. I've had a chance to get to know you quite well over the last 2-3 weeks. We've had some great conversations. I look forward to remaining a good colleague of yours and a good friend. But again, I look forward to you sharing the story with the group. Thank you so much for your time and for all you do.
Perfect. Thank you, Sean. I really appreciate the opportunity and the you allowing me to come on and share my passion, which is safety. That's me with an autoclave at a facility that I was working at. So, Sean, if you can go on to the next one. The next slide, please. And that's me. Been doing it for almost 2 decades. Been into a lot of the high containment places throughout the country. Got into the research by accident. So, but then again, I don't believe in accidents. So that's where I kind of got my start, and then got into it very, very well. And some of you people that are here, I recognize several of you. So, Sean, let's go to the next one. And what I want to talk about, because I have a lot of information and a little bit of time, and I want to get through it as quickly as possible because I want to respect you guys' time. But the known fact is what we're trying to do here, despite just rigorous proto safety calls and SOPs and everything that we do, things do get out. And I'm actually a living example of that. I've had 3 known and probably several unknown exposures when I was working in these high containments. Most of them, in fact, none of them happened when I was in the back. Most of them happened on the clean side. I was quarantined twice, had to go through rigorous testing. One of them was a TB that was over in Asia that was antibiotic resistant. They said if I had it, the likelihood is that I may not make it. Fortunately for me, it wasn't TB. I did get through that, but I had to go home and explain to my wife that I may have killed us both. I had to quarantine her and I both, and we both ended up having to be tested. But it did come back that I didn't, and I ended up picking up another virus that was being worked at a different lab, had to be treated for it. But I do know that it does get out. And that brings me to a certain point here. And in my travels, and I've traveled all over the country to labs all over the country resolving issues. And one of the things I've noticed is really the lack of training and understanding of the autoclave. Those that I've serviced, you know that's I teach everybody and I make people understand. Of all the equipment that I work in the back and environmental cabinets, this is the one piece of equipment that is absolutely critical. There's no other way of putting it. If something happens in an environmental cabinet and you lose control of something, the environmental cabinet, your PPE, the room, the hallway, airflows contain it. Once you stick something into that autoclave, that is the bioseal from absolute control in the back to non-control. So it is critical to get back, to make sure that everything that you get is done. And I know, in my talks, most of these people go, Bob, it's okay. It's not a problem because it's going to go in this container. It's going to be shipped off and it's going to be incinerated. Firstly, there's only 3 incinerators left in the United States that do the incineration. What ends up happening is they do put this thing into a truck, and what happens is it's hauled down, and they stick it back in an autoclave. And by the way, the guy that does this, he's all peppered up because he knows that the likelihood that the labs have gotten the kill are probably not 100%. He's peppered up and having to stick this thing back into an autoclave. Then it comes out, then they sort through it, and they get rid of it. And then, of course, any of your bedding, fecal matter, carcasses, tissues, anything like that is sent off to be incinerated. But I want you to know that it doesn't end at where you stick it in and the guy hauls it off. Sean, if you'll roll to the next one. What you don't know is this what you see here is what can happen to your waste. Now, this waste here, it was sent to me in a video, and you can't find it on the internet because they scrub it off. But on average, there are 3 to 4 accidents a year with these trucks. So when you say, Bob, it's okay that it's going to be hauled off, you have to take into consider this. In the video, I have a video, and in it, a woman is walking by with a baby in her stroller, and she literally walked right through it and went into the Aldi that you see. Look at the policeman and the guy and a truck driver. You'll see that there's no PPE. There's nothing on here. And if you look at the top of the truck and then you look down here, that is lab waste in those bins. So they mix them up, and there's a lot of hospital waste as well. This is in downtown Tampa, by the way, right in the middle of the city. In the video, it shows people pulling over because all the lanes were blocked with the waste. So the truck driver was trying to move it over so people could get around. People were getting out of their vehicles and helping him to move things out of the way. So you have to understand, when you say that it's hauled off, this can happen. And it happens on average 3 to 4 times a year. So it is important that we get it right when we leave these labs. It most definitely, and even for my sake, I went to a facility every year. They worked on influenza, and magically, even though I didn't go in the back, I ended up with influenza within 24 hours, and a lot of it had to do it. Next slide, please. So what is the challenge? Everybody knows the challenge. We're just trying to achieve something that is predictable, validatable decontamination results. The problem is you have different loads. People are loading stuff, they're overloading, you have liquids, and different components act different ways when they get into the autoclave. And this is where it becomes very, very, very tricky. Steam penetration is inconsistent, especially inside closed and overpacked bags. Those red bags, they're a great insulator. And what you're going to learn today is why steam is important along with the heat. We know that liquids, they absorb and redistribute heat differently, extending times needed. Anybody that's running media, liquids, you know this, it just takes a long time for liquids to heat up. These are some of the problems. One of the biggest problems that we have is the actual operators. And what I found is when I go in these facilities, and like I said, I've been East Coast, West Coast, North, South, every place I've ever gone in these laboratories, especially academia, you're dealing with 18, 19, 20-year-olds who always seem to be in a hurry, and they're trying to catch up because they don't want to end up working overtime. So there's really no clear SOPs involved in this, and there's no pictures of how it should be loaded, and frankly, there's a real lack of training for the people that are doing the loading. And what I found is the technician that was taught teaches the next one in line. So in academia, you get a change every year and a half, 2 years. They're usually not consistent. And then the person is training the next person. This is a big thing for me because this is where supervisor, your PIs and your safety officers, you need to go and open the doors and look at how this stuff is being loaded because it plays such a critical role. Confirmation of sterilization is often assumed, not validated or verified. The one thing I notice is nobody wants to stick something into a bag that's full of biohazardous waste and then try to fish it out afterwards. And what you're going to see in my testing here coming up, you're going to realize that it causes a problem if it's not validated, because you may get surface, but in other things you're going to have a problem. Next slide, please. Autoclave. This is the dragon that can't be slayed, the thing that everybody hates in a laboratory, and it makes sense. Laboratory autoclaves, you're dealing with electronics, electricity, water, steam, and they're just a pain in the neck, and everybody knows it. But a lot of people don't help themselves with it. The autoclave is just a very, very conceptually easy piece of equipment. They've become more complicated because the FDA is trying to get it to do something that is very difficult to do. You're trying to overcome those loads. You're trying to overcome the liquids. You're trying to overcome the plastic bags inside your autoclave. But in the end, you're just trying to get everything to at least 121 just to break down the proteins and neuric acids. And that's basically what you're looking to do with the autoclave. They are a pain in the neck, but I remember working on some older ones when I first got in. It was 3 knobs and a switch. You just turn one, close the valve off, you set your temperature, you open up the valve, it would go in, you set an egg timer, and 20 minutes later, ding, the egg timer go off, you go in, shut the valves, open the drain valve, and then pull everything out. Now you have load probes and all these probes and checks and computers, and it's become complicated. But what they're trying to do is they're just trying to get the autoclave to do something that what's loaded in it is trying to fight against you. Next slide, please. So we're going to get into the physics of gas and mist. Gas is very, very gas permeates literally everything, and And when I'm talking about gas and steam, I'm talking about gas and mist, I'm talking about steam. And I'll explain this because this is very, very critical. And it plays into your cycles, what happens in your cycles and your autoclave, and whether you're going to get sterilization and decontamination or not. Very critical. When steam is at its purest, it is a gas state. You can't see it. And yes, I know that you're going to tell me, Bob, I can see steam. I'll explain this in just a second. But the one thing about gas is it permeates everything. If there's a pinhole, it's going into it. Crevices, nooks, crannies, it goes into it. It penetrates underneath, over top, around things. If you have a mist, the problem is it's subject to gravity. It just floats down, and whatever it gets on. Those that do vapping the room, you understand this. They have to have a mist in there, not a mist, but it has to be pure. It has to be pure gas. And in order for it to get in every nook and cranny, you open things up and it gets it. The autoclave is no different. Now, the way I'm going to explain this is steam in its purest form, you can't see it. If you put a pan of boiling water on your stove and you actually look down at the bubbles at the bottom and you look in that pot, you will see that it's actually clear. What is happening is at its purest state of steam, it's clear, you can't see it. The bubble comes up, and what you see now is that aerosol mist or the dry mist of that. And as that gas comes up and it starts cooling off, that's the mist you see. So when you open up the autoclave, when it's shut, you don't see it, but when you do, you see the steam coming out. That is what that does. And that is a problem when you get into that mist or it starts condensing. You can actually insulate things in your autoclave. Now, if your autoclave, and this is something you can kind of try when you get back and you want to play with it, but in that autoclave, if you take a dry paper towel and stick it in your autoclave, you should be able to run a cycle. At the end of the cycle, open the door, that piece of cloth should be dry, your paper towel. It should be as dry as it is. If you open it up and it's soggy, you have a problem with your autoclave. That means that you're getting the mist and it's too, we'll call it juicy air, so to speak. And that's really kind of a problem. So it's kind of a neat little trick to see if your autoclave is working correctly or not. But if it is working correct and you are getting that perfectly arid, dry gas that you need, then it will. But again, if you get into that mist, it's going to get into a block. We'll explain this later. Next slide, please. Proper steam saturation. Steam saturation is just a fancy way of saying humidity, okay? And when you look here to the left, it is important that your steam saturation or humidity, it plays such a critical role in whether you're getting penetration, how much penetration, and whether you're getting that heat inside. That steam saturation should be between 3 to 7%. And let me explain. Less than 3, it's the same as putting it into just a regular oven. And anybody that has something dry, even if you put it in a pressure cooker and it's dry, it's going to take forever to get it to penetrate and get in. You might as well just stick it in your regular oven at home. If it's greater than 7%, now we're getting too much humidity, and there's too much. And those in healthcare understand this, because what happens is once you start getting more than 7%, 8, 9, 10%, the humidity will keep, it gets on their packs and it will seal it and keeps the heat from going in and getting the sterilization that they need on all their operating equipment, utensils, and other things. So you can have too little or too much. Now, steam, the reason that we use steam is not to kill. Steam molecules, when you put them under pressure, that's what creates the heat that you have. And if you have too much, it will actually hinder getting to that 121 to the 134 that you need in order to do it. The molecule, along with the air, you compress it like anything else. You compress something, it gets hotter. The way that you compress steam And if you can compress it, it actually gets hotter. It's probably one of the most effective methods of getting the heat that you want. But steam also does something else that's really, really neat. Steam will actually is attracted to things that are cold, especially when it gets into that mist form. It will actually attack anything that's cold, and then it drags that heat in. And what I want you to remember, because this is one of the three key important points when I start explaining how the cycles work and the importance of this and the role this plays as the steam saturation is really, really kind of critical. So you've got to get it between that 3 and 7%. If you get too much, you're doing it. And I just want to real quickly, I'm from Florida. If you've been to Florida in July, it's hot, it's muggy, it's miserable. But if you live in Florida, and I lived there for over 30 years, the temperature rarely gets above 95, 96 degrees. The reason why is you have that humidity, and that air is so juicy. If you're there in July, August, you know the humidity is running 80, 85, 90%, and it's not raining. It's just really humid, but that humidity actually cools the air and protects it from heat. On the other way, when you get to Arizona, where they have low humidity, and you get out there in Arizona, temperatures get up to 120, 130, 140 in the summertime, but they have very low humidity. So you can see where too much is really a problem, and then too little is. But you need a certain amount of steam or the water molecules that attack, and this is what drives it in. Next slide, please. So just remember that. Here in this chart, I wish I had my pointer, on the left that you see here, this also plays a very, very critical role in the sterilization. You'll see here that where it says 100 degrees Celsius atmospheric or 212, that's boiling water on the pot. The next one that you see is 15 psi. So if you apply 15 psi of pressure, of steam pressure to your autoclave, that equates to 121 Celsius or 250 degrees Fahrenheit. In the red, you'll see that that is the actual boiling point of water. Now, I rounded it up, but it's actually 122.6. So if you're adding water to your bag, and because you want to create steam, you have a little bit of a problem. So you go, okay, Bob, you know what I'll do? The autoclave can crank up to 134 or 274 degrees. So we're just going to crank up the heat and we'll get that water to boil. A little bit of a problem here. So at 134, that equates to 32 psi in the autoclave. So you're running 32 psi. So at 32 psi, your water temperature is 136. It's actually 135.6. I rounded it up. So you can crank it up, and as you can see by that line that separates water and steam, the more pressure you put in, the more difficult it's just not going to. You're never going to achieve that boiling point. And of course, this is used when you're doing your liquid cycles, and it plays a big role because you need to keep that pressure and that water temperature down to keep it from boiling. If it boils, you lose all your water, your media, everything that you're trying to accomplish, and that's what happens. The chart on the right is what happens under vacuum. Now, if you have a pre-vac cycle or the ability to run a vacuum in your autoclave, this is going to be absolutely critical. What happens here is you see the vacuum and how it goes down. At 100, which is atmospheric, again, we're at 100 C. And then as your vacuum gets pulled, most autoclaves should be able to pull between 25 and 29 inches of vacuum, depending on how much your water supply and how good your pumps are. But they should at least get down to 25. But what happens to liquids when it gets there, if you look, it gets down to 54 or 129 Fahrenheit. That's a little bit more than your hot water heater runs. That's at 54 C. Now, I want to point this out because the people that think that steam actually kills is where it's heat. When you see that 154 or the 21, which is 69 degrees at 29 inches, guess what temperature your steam is at that point? It's the same temperature. So whatever your steam is and the pressure, that's what it runs. So at 54C, your steam temperature is 54C. It is 21C. And these play a very critical role in what they do. And why I want you to remember this, especially the vacuum, is when we get into the cycles, you're going to understand what happens inside the load and how it works and how it functions. So let's go to the cycles and the next phase of this, please. Okay. What I did is I pulled this chart up because what I wanted to do is I wanted to compare it equally. And for the most part, we run 3 different cycles of gravity, liquid, and a pre-vac or a preconditioning cycle. I didn't do anything over the air, over pressure. That's for the bulk sterilizers. You won't see that in the smaller ones. It's a very specific cycle that it runs because of the bulks. And for those that have never seen a bulk sterilizer, you can park cars and trucks and everything else in them. They're absolutely massive, and I've worked on them all over the country as well. Gravity with post-vacuum, we don't fool with those either. If you can pull the vacuum, you better have a pre-vac cycle on there. So we're going to go to the big 3. Now on the gravity and liquid, you see that they're very much the same, except for the ramp down at the end. And I'll explain that. So you go through the purge, you see that little hump in the beginning. There's a little bit of a purge, and your purge is very, very critical to an autoclave. What the purge does is it takes either 1 minute to 3 minutes. I generally run, the ones that I controlled, I put a 3-minute purge in it. What it does, when you open the autoclave and you shut it, you're going to get little air pockets in the chamber. You have to get rid of those. And what happens is if you can see, they will shrink, and it's like a balloon of air. And as it heat and pressure, but it won't heat up. So there's pockets within that could harbor a virus or a spore that'll never achieve the temperature. It actually does. So the purge, what it does is it will open the drain valve and it pours steam in, and then it starts preheating the chamber, the contents, the drain, and gets rid of any cool spot in and forces it down the drain. So it's preheating everything. Now, when it goes into the heat up, you'll notice that it's a very slow, methodical ramp up. If you ever hang around to listen to the autoclave, you'll hear it go. You'll hear that after the purge, you'll hear it go click, click, and you'll hear steam going in, stop. Wait a little bit, steam going in, stop. And what it does is it ramps it up very, very slowly. It is a very, very slow process. Now, in the beginning, I told you that that steam is the hammer to the heat nails, and the nail is what we want to drive in order to get the kill. Both the liquid and the gravity, I like to call them the tack hammer, is what they are. And the reason is it's going by and it's taking that steam and it's just tapping it in. Tap, 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 tap. Is probably the best way of doing it. So it's nothing hard. It just taps it in every time that steam's trying to push it just a little bit. But if your load is dense, in other words, if you have a bunch of something that is dense and layered, you have to remember what's going on. As that steam goes in there, what's happening is that steam's going to attack anything cold. And what's going to happen when steam attacks cold? It turns to liquid again. So liquid is a barrier for heat. And this is why the gravity cycle is probably not one of my preferences for waste, and for this reason. And what generally happens is that it will start, you have to keep trying to push that liquid to a temperature where it slowly starts coming back around, and that's why the slow ramp up. So if you put a lot of trash in something, it's trying to close that in, and you just create more trouble, and you need a lot more time to do it. So it literally is just taking that nail and tapping it in. So when you get right above sterilization, it's going to go through a very quick check, and it's going to say, okay, I'm going to check. It's going to check to make sure that, especially in the new ones, it's going to make sure that the probes all meet, your chamber probe, your drain probe, Then it's going to check your steam pressure to make sure that your jacket pressure, your everything meets, because pressure and temperature correlate evenly. So at 15 psi, that should equate to 121. So when you get into sterilization, it's going to do the same thing. It's going to run through a hold pattern, and it wants to see if the temperature is going to drop off. If it drops off, then it will pump steam in, and then you get a timeout period. So if it sits there and it keeps going back and forth, it will get a timeout, and that's where you get your heat timeout failure. And when you get a lot of heat timeout failures, it generally is because you've overloaded the autoclave, and the contents are still cold enough that it's causing cool air to go into the drain in the chamber, and it drops down too low, and you get that layer. So let's talk about the ramp down here real quick. And especially with the effects of liquids. If you look at the gravity, it's exactly what it does. At the end of the sterilization, it cuts off the steam to it, and then it says we're going to open up the drain valve and an air inlet valve. So it uses gravity to go down. So within 30 seconds to a minute, it's going to come back down to atmospheric. But what happens if you have liquids in there? And I've seen people accidentally run the gravity. As soon as you release that pressure, the temperature of that liquid is at 121. I know this happens all the time because I see media all over the inside of the autoclave. And what generally will happen is that valve opens up, and it's a Mount St. Helens eruption. Instantly, we come to an extremely hard boil. You're going to lose about 95% of it. People open the door and go, what happened? Well, you ran the wrong cycle. Where when you get to the liquid cycle, which is the same as gravity all the way up to that point, you see the slow ramp down. So at the end of the sterilization, everything just stops. It stops putting steam in, but no valves open. It will sit there for probably 1.5 to 3 minutes, depending on your setting, and then it slowly ramps down. And what it's trying to do is to match the pressure to the temperature. So as the temperature comes down, it can release a little bit of that pressure in order to keep it from boiling. It's really, really tricky to do. You generally, if you're going to lose your any percentage of it, it's in the ramp down. You don't lose your water, it's the ramp down. If you lose more than 10% and you start losing 20-30% and you see media splattering, you either need to change your settings to slow the ramp down a little bit more, or you have a leak in the chamber or a bad steam a steam trap, and you need to call your technician, and then they can make that adjustment. Over here for the preconditioning. Now this, where the gravity in the liquid was the tack hammer, this is the jackhammer. This is what this preconditioning does, and pre-vac or preconditioning. And you see how aggressive those lines are. On the pointer, so you have your same purge section that you see in that little hump, and then it'll drive it up to 9 or 10 psi, depending on if you're running the 121 cycle. And I'm going to assume the 121. So you're running the 121 pre-vac cycle, and what it'll do is it's going to pump in about 9 to 10 psi. Now you have to remember what's going on and the physics of what's happening. So you have a denser load, but you're running a pre-vac, and when they invented it, it's for this specific reason. So you drive it in, the steam is attacking cold spots, and then it's turning to liquid. Well, the liquid's what's blocking your heat. It'll insulate, and it won't allow that heat to come in. Like on the gravity in the liquid, it has to eventually just kind of push it and overtake it. With the preconditioning or the pre-vac, what it does is it pushes it in. It says, okay, let's get rid of that barrier. So when that pressure starts dropping, it opens the drain valve. You don't get outside air. It turns a pump on, either a Venturi system, which produces a little tornado, and then they inject water around it like a tornado, and then it pulls it, but it has to be cold water, because what you're trying to get rid of is the mist. You're trying to get rid of the liquids, but how do you get rid of them? Remember what I was explaining to you in that chart before. When it pulls a vacuum, you lower the temperature of boiling point. So you're pulling 29 inches, your boiling point is 54 C or 129 degrees. Now that liquid barrier that was in your way has now turned back to a gaseous state, a misty, gassy state, and that blockage is now removed. So as it comes down and it pulls it all the way down, all the liquids are gone. They're boiled and they're turning to gas. And then what happens is it gets pulled down the drain, and now it preconditions the autoclave chamber back to a totally gaseous state again. So there's no liquids or anything in it. And now it's going to keep driving back up. And that's what it does. It puts the steam in, and it just keeps closing that down and pulling that liquid out until there's no spot left. Now, in all the places that I work, if they were running trash, the first thing I did is I went from a 3 to a 4 pulse. The reason I did a 4 pulse is we're trying to bust bags open because it's critical to get that steam and heat into the if you see how the autoclave works, if your bag is closed, that's not happening. You're not getting that pull and pull out, pull in, pull out. And you'll see this in the testing. Next slide, please. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get into the testing. You'll see that this is my autoclave here that you see behind me. I have an older version, Stairs V120 autoclave. Now, for the indicators, I use 2 of them. I use the proper steam temperature. These are 121 temperature strips is what they are, and they detect steam and heat. If it hits it with steam or just heat, they won't go. It has to be steam and heat. And then I use the McKesson Type A biologicals, the Model 73, which has had the highest amount of spore counts in it. Then I use a test pack, a 3M Bowie Dick test pack. And what I did is I did use this for a challenge pack is what I ended up doing. So I'll show you that in a picture here in a minute. My containment systems are going to be the 2 mil 12-gallon autoclavable bags. And then I used this is one of my inventions, which is the BioPro 300 version. We have different versions. This one fits nicely in this 20-inch autoclave. And they have valves that open up. They sense heat from the autoclave. They're airtight. They open up as soon as they sense heat, and then it allows steam and heat to go in. Then for the simulated waste load, you'll see that I had hard plastic board, and I have a picture of it, and then I use light trash. What I did is as progressive as I could. And then I used, as per recommended by the NIH, to seal up a bag with 100 milliliter to 200 milliliters of warm tap water. Next one, please. So we're going to go ahead and get into the testing of this. This is the challenge packs that I did. I took the Bowie Dicks, took the wraps off. You can see where I have the proper steam strips right there by the biological indicators. In the second slide, you see how it sandwiches in there. On 3 of the cycles, 6, 7, and 8, I actually sealed this down. They were on a hinge. And then for 3 of the cycles, to really make it challenging, to make the denser harder, I actually taped it down tight on there to make it very, very, very dense. These were my challenge packs, and I think you're going to be surprised. And then on the outside, I put another steam strip on the outside and one on the inside along with the BI. Next slide, please. This is what the bags look like inside and on the BioPro 300. One bag, I had one that had sealed with liquid in it. I had another dry bag. I left it open and closed. You can see where it just had that in it, and that's what I used for cycles 1, 2, 3. Go ahead and let's go look at the biological indicators. You see my control. My BIs, that batch of BIs were good. These were pretty much unremarkable. The wet bag, I was taping them up to begin with. The bags, they just came apart and got full exposure. Purple is what we want to see anyways, which is great. The dry bags for 1, 2, 3, and I think 4, I left them open. I didn't tape them. I didn't do anything. I just stuck the bag in just like it was. And then the third one you see is the BioPro 300. Next slide, please. And then we get into cycle, and this is what it looks like here with the waste real quick. And then you can see my test pack is sealed down. You can see how densely, and then that's the 100 milliliters of water. And then you can see that I had 5% waste in the bag, literally just 5%. So each one had the same amount of trash, and it was basically just some PPE and general waste that was put in it. I did it on a very, very low. And when we get into putting trash in, this is where you're probably going to be a little shocked. Next slide, please. And then take it one more beyond that. For 4, 5, and 6, what I did is on the pre-vac cycle, this was the last one that I started putting trash in it. I didn't, let's see here on this, I did not use the tie wraps. It was still with tape. Unremarkable, we got the kill. The bags were opening up and getting in. You'll notice here when we get to cycle number 5, and again, this is with just hard plastic and 5% trash. Look what happened on the gravity cycle. The bag remained intact on this one, is what happened. But look at your steam strip. Look what it indicates. It says it's okay. It says I reach temperature and I reach it, but look at your biological. And that could be a problem. And you're going to see the pattern through all of my testing here, and I'm breezing through it. Now for test number 5, I did seal the bag. I took very similar to what everybody does. I left a little bit of a hole in the top. I tie wrapped it, left a little bit of a hole so that there's about a 1/2-inch vent hole up in the top of the bag, and then I threw it in. And then the Safe-Decon one, the BioPro 300 went. When I get to cycle 6, I put the pack in, and this was the denser pack. This is the one I taped literally down hard on both sides. And these are 40-minute cycles, by the way, 4 pulse. Again, I ran 4 pulses, not 3. You'll see that with 5% trash on the pre-vac cycle with the denser pack, this is what I ended up with. On the cycle 6, both bags did rupture. When they rupture, I'll show you a picture what they look like when they do rupture, but they did blow open. The problem is when do they blow open? If they blow open on 3 or 4, it's not enough to be able to get that steam and heat to actually penetrate, and it's going to act just like a gravity cycle. Next slide, please. One more. On 7, 8, and 9, what I want you to see here real quick is that this was a gravity cycle on cycle 7. It is with the very tight packs. This is a gravity 40-minute cycle, 3-minute purge. And what I did is I really want to push this to the absolute maximum by using that 40-minute cycle. And it only takes 15 minutes to kill a spore. This is 40 minutes. And then I'm going to show you here as things progress, and we're going to progress the time even more. But you'll see that we didn't even pass even on the BioPro 300. And again, on that gravity cycle, because it's denser and you have that pack really squeezing in, what's happening is that steam is going in, it's turning to a liquid. And because it's a tighter bunched together group, to get heat past that liquid is very, very, very difficult. And this was the last cycle that I ran. No, it wasn't. 8 was. But as you can see, all 3 didn't get it. And I knew that Safe-Decon had gotten a very good steam, but look at the steam strips underneath. They're showing that it's good. So we get into pre-vac cycle. I ran it again with the tight packs. The bags did bust. And then you can see that again on the wet bag that it did fail on that, and it remained intact. And that has by the way, we changed it to 250 milliliters of water. So I ran one more on number 9 when that was the last of the 40-minute cycles, and you will see that we did get failures on both the gravity. This is the loose version of the pack, the one I showed you before. It wasn't taped down; it was just hinged and shut. the BioPro 300 got it, but look at your steam strips. It's showing that we got through this just fine. For testing, to go up 2 slides for me, if you would, Sean. For cycles 10 and 11, hold on, just hold it right there. That's what the bags look like here on the one on the left. That I took the dry bag out. That's a wet bag. You can see the water kind of drooping down and the contents were out. That cycle failed, and you'll see that the contents are spread in there. The one on the right was another cycle, and I wanted to show you what the dry bag looks like. You see that it's blown up. That was intact. It has a little vent hole at the top, but look at the sealed wet bag that they want you to do. And imagine that being done, and on both of these, it failed, just so you know. This was cycle 8. So if you pull that out and you try to retrieve that biological, you let it go, you now have a potential aerosol effect. You know, the minute you open that bag, it's going to go, and whatever's in the contents, if it is something that's an aerosol, can be a problem. Look at the dry bag. It's the same way. If you grab it and you didn't get the kill, the minute they grab it, it's going to present an aerosol. Next slide, please. And then go one more past that one. We'll get to the final ones. This is cycle 10, 11. And what I did, back one, please, real quick. Cycle 10, 11, what I did here is I ran a pre-vac cycle. These bags they were run for an hour on 10, 11 with 250 milliliters of water. They did burst open. They did rupture. And if they rupture early, there's a good shot you're going to get it. And then we look at the gravity cycle. The dry bag did remain sealed. It didn't bust open. The wet bag, it did remain in this. The wet bag did rupture in this one, so it probably ruptured a little bit early. We did get the kill on it, and then the BioPro 300s, we did get it. I want to go ahead and get into the conclusions because I want to get past this real quick. Next slide. The one consistent thing was the pre-vac cycle. Both the wet and dry bag, they ruptured about 90% of the time, which is really, really good. Because of the pressure differences, when that pressure is going in and vacuuming out, eventually that bag is going to try to bust open. And so the problem is where in a preconditioning does it bust open? If it busts open in 3 or 4, you're treating it just like a gravity, and you're not going to get that penetration inside. And remember, folks, this is only 5% trash that I put in it. You're seeing how little it is. Imagine if that bag is full, and the more you put in it, the more challenges that you have. And again, you're trying to overcome that plastic bag, which is an insulator. That steam and heat is not getting inside. It's very, very tricky to do. So you know, by challenging it, you're seeing that in them packs, you're getting that problem. You're also seeing that those chemical strips, they're going to give you a false negative. My concern is when you add the water to the bag, it doesn't necessarily guarantee you that you're going to get the sterilization. But part of the problem is that liquid, if the bag does rupture, it has a hole in it, and you go to pull it out. And this happened to me. Hot water is going to spill on the front of you, and it may not be decontaminated all the way either. It's going to spill on you. It's hot and not decontaminated. You may present it. Next slide, please. And then the pre-vac cycle here is, hang on, something in my way. Pre-vac cycles, the dry bags were 33% effective. The wet bags were 66% effective. And the BioPro was 100% on the pre-vac. That 33 to 66%, that is Russian roulette. And again, that's only 5%. I only had 2 bags in that BioPro in that autoclave. It didn't take up much room. And of course, the more you put bags together, the less you're insulating each other. And that effectiveness is actually going to start going down. And you know, you can increase the times to help do it, but even at an hour, it may not be enough. The gravity cycle, the wet bags were 33% effective. That's 3 in 10 with 5% trash in it. The dry bags were 40% effective. The BioPro 300 was 80%. It failed on the dense hard pack. of course, obviously, we should be running all pre-vac cycles. It should be noted when the bag's ruptured, the internal waste was scattered in there, but it didn't always guarantee that it was decontaminated. And then the wet, that the water that's in it, make sure that you have something in there. It's going to spill. Make sure it has something to contain it. But as you can see, make sure that even on the clean side, that everybody is properly protected. This is where I got in trouble when I was doing the autoclaves in the beginning, and then I started taking steps at the end. Next one, please. And next slide. So the practice of adding water, I think the dangers outweigh the adding liquids to the effectiveness of it. It's not going to make that much difference, but it can cause you problems. Pre-vac cycles, obviously they're the ones, that's the jackhammer one as opposed to the tap hammer. Gravity cycles, if you're going to use them, if you don't have it, make sure that you know that you need to extend the time, especially depending on the loads and the density of the loads. Try to open the bags as much as you can. If you close the bag on a gravity, you might as well just assume you're not going to get the kill. If that steam doesn't even get in there at all or have any shot at it, you can forget it. Liquid cycles should never be used when you're decontamination cycle. Put them in a container, and then they should not be used unless you have a way to monitor that load, because liquids, depending on how much, is going to change how much time. But if you do use the gravity cycles, I suggest at least a 2.5 hours, especially if you're getting to larger loads, at least a 2.5 hour sterilization. So with that, I want to thank you guys for being here. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you, Sean, for the opportunity. Hopefully I didn't take up too much time. I tried to rush through it. I will be at APSA for those that, if you're at APSA, we will be there with Safe-Decon. You can ask me questions here, and I'll remain on to answer any questions that you may have. So with that, Sean, it's back to you.
Bob, thank you again so very, very much. And thank you to all of those who have attended today. What I'm going to do is stop the actual recording right now, and I am going to start taking any questions that you may have in the chat box. Bob has said that he'll stick around, and so I will facilitate a conversation with Bob. We have stopped the recording. If you aren't interested in answering or listening to the Q&A, I want to wish you a great weekend. Take care of yourselves. Thank you all very, very much for attending. I do want to give recognition. I will tell you this. I want to recognize Dr. Walks away with a $25 gift card from Amazon. That was the choice. Amazon was the choice for today. We are going to, I see a couple hands up. What I want is I'd love to actually facilitate, just because we've had some bad experiences in the past. If you have any questions, can you please put them in the chat box? Brett, you have asked slides or video. We will post this video. We will make that accessible. Bob, I hate to put you on the spot. We could PDF the slides. Is that something you would?
Oh yeah, no, that's no problem.
You could share those.
Let it rip. Right? Oh no,
I will send
if you.
Yeah, if you attended today's session, what I'll do is send you a PDF form probably early next week, ladies and gentlemen. Being that it's Friday, I got to close a couple things up. So I know, Gunther, you've asked the same question, so we will get you a PDF version of this, and you will be able to view the video recording on the YouTube channel where all the other lunch break series have been posted. Michael is asking, Bob, how does one maintain safety opening a bio-waste bag after putting it in an autoclave? Rubber band a bag and let the brand melt with the temp? What's your suggestion?
I've seen people use the rubber bands, and again, a lot of the problem whenever you tape anything or even rubber band it is at what point does it open up or let go? And different rubber bands of different thicknesses, they're going to break open. And again, you see what happened with even a partially open dry bag. I left a small opening in that. You still can get to fail. And I've seen this literally in every facility. You know, they try different tricks to get the bag to open up. And the only way you're going to do it is that steam has to get in there. It has to get in there. The autoclave is and the steam and the process is amazing, but it's only effective if you can get it access. If you put the rubber band, when does it open? Does it melt and partially stay closed? I've actually seen them actually stay partially closed and not allow the bag to actually open up. And again, when that bag opens up determines when your load is actually going to see that steam and heat penetration. I just recommend just clipping it open. Don't even tie wrap it. If you're going to use bags, go in and just take clippers and just clip it. If it's totally sealed, you have the problem with, it's not so much when it gets in the autoclave, but you have the effect where you get that bellows where it may close up and then spew out an aerosol. So you have to be very mindful. But if you're on the dirty side, you're okay. I just worry about it getting on the other side and not being properly decontaminated and handling it and having it get that aerosol effect if it's not. So, yeah,
I've heard of people cutting holes like at the last phase, just taking something and cutting a hole in the bag very quickly. I don't know if that's an option, but there are lots of questions coming in.
Let me address that real quick here.
Because I think Steve, Michael asked the question Michael asked is a fair question. If we need to let steam hit, how are we on the side of containment protecting folks? How do we do that? Do you want them in full PPE opening bags before they put them in autoclaves? What's your suggestion?
I mean, if depending on what you're working on, and again, I was quarantined. And the cycle went through just fine, but it's just the way that the load was done. But let me ask you, and this is something I've seen to be a big problem. If you cut a hole, you create a hole, and something happens to the autoclave, you got to remove all that stuff back out. And then you have the risk, and of course, everybody knows autoclaves never fail, right? Something goes wrong with your autoclave, you got to get that load out of there. Now you've lost all containment. So if you open it up and the bag is cut or the bag is open and you go to grab it and then it never got in, it fails at the beginning of the cycle, no heat's hit it. Now you have to recontain everything, and what a nightmare that is. And that's one of the big problems that you have to ask yourself. Great, I cut a hole. How am I going to recontain it if something happens to the autoclave? And what if, you go through the cycle and you've seen the density load part of it? If it's surface that you're getting to, you're probably fine. But the minute you start getting bigger loads or somebody doesn't do it right, the risk on the clean side, you don't have any containment. That bag is not sealed up.
Bob, I'm speaking based on some of the things that I've observed. I'm not an autoclave. I've also seen people treat it like, a baked potato in a microwave. You take a fork and you poke several little holes throughout the bag. It's what concerns me based on what I'm hearing you say. A lot of individuals will put their autoclaves outside of containment, meaning they will use their bags, maybe even trash cans, to transport from labs to the autoclave using kind of a secondary containment device. Correct. But then what you're saying is, and Michael, I can relate to Michael's question here. Michael's saying, okay, wait, we've secured that, use the bag as a secondary containment aspect or a container, and now we get to the autoclave and we want to open that, and that could potentially expose or at least contaminate that area again.
Yes.
Any quick suggestions other than using containers is, because I do want to get to Michael's answer. Is there anything you would suggest other than opening the bag wide for people?
Well, opening the bag is going to give you the best results. Anything else is going to be a certain level of risk every single time. And that's why every time I went into a facility, and I had to learn this the quick way when I got exposed, I learned very quickly I had to dress up in PPE, even though everybody was telling me, Bob, it's all good. I found out real quickly, depending on who's loading this autoclave, how they load it, how much steam access, are they overloading it, the potential that stuff's coming out of there and it's not good is actually pretty good. You look at the results of 5% load and you couldn't kill it in 40 minutes. even an hour, you weren't killing it. And this is why I want safety officers to pay attention. It's critical because I want you to open that door. I want you to look at how these people are loading it, because it's going to come back on the safety officer if something gets out or somebody gets sick. They're going to, why weren't you looking? Look, just go up and look every once in a while and see that they're packing it correctly. That's going to play a big role. That's why I tell you to wear PPE when removing it until you know that you got the kill on it. That's critical. You might be, like I said, this is Russian roulette, as you can tell. Even with my testing, even with an hour of sterilization is not guaranteeing you. Even potentially 2 hours, depending on the load, it may not be enough to kill it. So you really are going to have to make sure that people are protected properly in the disposal of it.
Very good. No, very good. Moving to the next one, Layla was kind of hoping you would say something about don't put disinfectants in autoclave. It destroys the autoclave. You have any comments on that?
Oh, absolutely. I've seen people throw bleach in there, and when you compress bleach, it turns into a pure acid. That will absolutely ruin your autoclave, your traps. It ruins your everything. You should not be putting any chemicals in. And you have to remember, certain chemicals can actually be explosive when you get in. I've actually been into two autoclaves that blew up because they actually put chemicals in it. And when it compresses it under a liquid, there was a blowout. And that can actually kill people. With the amount of pressure that this autoclave, it's quite extraordinary. I've watched doors go through concrete walls. So yeah, you definitely don't want to put any chemicals in there at all.
Any suggestions that you have? Like, there's lots of folks that will use they'll put like microchem, or they'll have towels that have microchem, and they want to autoclave the towels out. What are your thoughts on that? Let it dry before you start doing it, or what are your thoughts on that?
That would probably be the best. You're probably fine with the autocam. I haven't seen any issues with it. What I'm just more concerned about is more of the stuff that's actually corrosive. Acid bleach can be corrosive. When you get into peroxide, that can also be corrosive. The whole idea is to not put corrosive stuff in it, because it's going to eat seals, it's going to eat, and it's going to cause you breakdowns. And then you have certain chemicals that will react when they're put under pressure. It doesn't happen very often. Generally, as a rule, when I walk in, I can tell you if they've used bleach in there, and then I let them know, don't do that. Please don't do that. So it turns into a vapor, and it's very acidic. Yeah.
Well, what about like residual bleach? You concerned about that as well? So like your autoclave and bio-waste, there's residual bleach on there.
No, residual bleach. And you have to remember that bleach, if you leave it out, atmospheric, it just, it's like alcohol in a lot of ways. Yeah. It'll just vapor out anyways. Yeah. What I'm talking about is if you have a towel that's completely soaked with bleach, or something that has a great deal amount in it, or you just have a liquid container of bleach that you're going to, and why you would do that with bleach, it doesn't make sense. Because bleach is going to kill, just purest form is going to kill everything anyways. We're just trying to keep it from turning into an acid and ruining things. If as long as it's not soaked and it's just residual, you're fine. Stick it in a bag, let it rip. I'm talking about just chemicals themselves, where people, totally soak. If you leave it out somewhere, it'll dry, it'll vapor out in a matter of hours. So
yeah. Well, this is something to consider in SOPs when you look at cleaning spills. Sometimes individuals will use bleach, and they'll saturate certain towels, and then they'll autoclave a biohazard bag out with a saturated towel soaked in bleach. And so this is just, again, something that people may want to think about adding to their protocols on their SOPs. Gunther asked a great question. Crystal says her mind's blown, but she's wondering if you have anything that she could read. A lot of great information you're providing. Any books that you would recommend on autoclaves?
A lot of it is actually the CDC and the NIH has a lot of this. Was it the APIC also has a lot of very good information as well. A lot of my knowledge has just come from books. You can also contact, if you have STARS or somebody like that, they can also give you this. With me, I'm kind of a nerdy person, and you've learned that, Sean. It's not about the what with me, but the why. The what, the what is the autoclave broke down. Why did it break down? And I always try to figure out, the what is we're trying to autoclave and decontaminate, and the question is why is it not working? And so these are the things that I've gotten into. But a lot of mine has to do with the general knowledge of the autoclave and the schooling that I went through. Then I got into the physics of it, and I just learned that just online through different documents and just different things. And for me, it's always why. When I first got into it, I wanted to know why they were using steam if heat killed. So now I know. I just started reading on the internet, literally everywhere, trying to absorb as much information as I could.
Yeah. No, very, very good. No, very good. Gunther's asking, can bags be placed in mesh drums, buckets to support bags and content?
It can, and that's what I recommend, especially if you're having any kind of liquids to keep them from spilling, and that's what I was talking about. You can do that. Again, just make sure that try to open the bag as much as possible to get that kill. And actually, the one good thing about putting them in pots and stuff like that is the bags are not going to touch each other. And you have to remember that plastic is an insulator. So if you use the metal bags, the metal containers, you're separating the bags apart. If bags are put together, you have to remember, if you put this bag and then you have one in between, you just took away 50% of your surface temperature in which it's hitting. And the problem is you have this temperature here, 68, sandwiching a bag that's 68 degrees. You have to heat all three bags, and then it has to heat literally all three to get the heat through. And that's why autoclaving just takes forever. And if you actually put a BI in the middle of it, of a sandwiched container that had any density, you're going to find it's going to fail almost every single time.
Very good. No, very good. Thank you, Bob. And Aaron says, no wonder why hospitals have decided to start shipping this out. This sounds like a huge, complicated issue. One of my inventions was to get rid of that, and they did that out of self-preservation. And that's why I did it, because it's complicated. It is a nightmare scenario, and it happens more than we ever realized. And I've been trying to trumpet this, and this is why I want to thank you, Sean, because I've been trying to trumpet this and get it out there to let everybody know this is a big problem, and it really needs to be resolved. It absolutely needs to be resolved. Just trying to get the loads and how to load it and what you can load in it. People, in my experience, people just don't understand just how complicated it really is. The autoclave is simple. What it does is absolutely miraculous. It's what we're doing and trying to keep the containment while exposing it it's like saying sweet and sour. We want to contain it, but yet we have to expose it. So it's an oxymoron. So Bob,
it's just
one
difficult.
of the things that safety professionals love to say is it depends, and I love that phrase, because when you look at the dependent variable, which is safety, or even just a autoclave cycle doing what it says it's going to do, which is sterilize. You have independent variables, which is what we do, how we pack our bags, what we use, what cycles we run, the functioning quality of our autoclaves. And because those independent variables are always shifting and always changing and always a variable aspect, it truly is a depends aspect. So, Bob, I will send your presentation out on early next week to everybody. If you're still with us, I strongly recommend, if you have any autoclave questions, reach out to Bob. He's been
Oh yeah,
outstanding.
I'd be love to help you.
And Bob, it's been outstanding working with you and your whole crew. And I wish you the very best. I know we'll have you back on here, but a lot of gratitude, a lot of thanks going out to you. And Bob, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. I'll give you the last word. Thank you to everyone out there. Hoping you have a great weekend. If you're affected by the shutdown, my thoughts and prayers are with you. But Bob, I'll give you the last word. Thank you again for your time.
Yeah, no, thank you, Sean. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I am available if you have further questions. You can email me. We're at www.safedeconinc.com. Please come down there, text me. We can set up a time that we can talk if you want. Again, I'll be at APSA. If you want to yank me aside at APSA, I'll be more than happy to spend more time. This went real quick. It actually goes a lot more in depth. But again, thank you for your time and your patience, and hopefully you guys got something out of it. And I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Bob. Have a great day.
All right. Thank you.